So let's talk about Mike Israetel. So Mike Israetel is a fitness content creator and a doctor of exercise science. He also goes by the name Dr. Mike. So Mike Israetel is quite a controversial character, partly because of his use of anabolic steroids, partly because of his appearance, and partly because of the advice he gives, and partly because of the things he says. And a little over 6 months ago, someone made a YouTube video about his PhD dissertation and how shit it was. And I wasn't actually originally going to make this video. I considered it when it was fresh, but I wasn't going to... I kind of decided against it. But this guy, Solomon Nelson's videos keep showing up in my feed. So I went on to his YouTube channel, and I saw most of his most popular videos is about people he doesn't like, and people in the fitness industry who are quite popular, but he disagrees with. And especially Dr. Mike. He really, really seems to hate Mike Israetel. Personally, when I come across content I don't like, or that triggers me, or makes me angry, I just don't watch it. I just stop watching it and then ignore it. But this guy, he really seems to dive into the things that make him angry about the fitness industry and people within it. And one thing is to sit and rage watch YouTube videos, but to rage read a PhD dissertation, that's next level. Now, I haven't actually watched his video on Mike Israetel's PhD dissertation. I've seen maybe 30 seconds of it. And the way it starts is by depicting a bunch of famous smart people with doctorates. So I can't remember who, but I think it was Albert Einstein, Richard Feynman, Isaac Newton. I can imagine those were the people who were on these pictures. So let's start with what a PhD is not. So what a PhD is not is a certificate of being a genius. If the requirement for getting a PhD was to be as clever as these people on these pictures at the start of his video, there would be about 10 people in the world with PhDs. What a PhD is an education in doing scientific research. You learn to do scientific research. So the way it builds is pretty much you start off doing some coursework, and you start doing your research, and then in the middle you usually do a big exam where you show that what you have done and that you know what you're doing and you know what you're gonna do next. And then in the end, you write your dissertation and you defend your dissertation. So since this is a video about Dr. Mike's dissertation, let's just explain what happens when you write your dissertation. So most people doesn't spend their entire PhD writing a dissertation. Most of the PhD is done collecting data. And then right at the end, you write your dissertation. Usually you only spend 3 months writing the document that you defend in the end. And so how this works is you write the dissertation and then you give it to your advisor, or it goes to a senior person within your research group. They read it and then give you feedback, and then you correct the feedback. But that doesn't always happen. Many times, a lot of the time, the professor who is your advisor will not read it and just say, yeah, that's good enough, just send it to your committee. So the PhD committee is a group of professors who also is supposed to read the dissertation and then will come to your defense, watch your dissertation defense, and then ask you questions about your presentation and your dissertation. But there is no guarantee that even your committee will read your dissertation. They could also just ask you questions about your presentation. And so, in reality, there is a reasonable chance that no one read Mike Israetel's PhD dissertation before he defended it. So actually, there's a pretty good chance Solomon Nelson was the first person to ever read Mike Israetel's PhD dissertation. Now, you could blame Dr. Mike for not writing a bit better dissertation, but in reality, I think the fact that they just approved it, like all of these people should have been able to pick up the problems within the dissertation. Now, I haven't read it and I haven't watched the video, but from what I understand, it was some pretty glaring problems with the dissertation that the professors who were supposed to evaluate this should have picked up. So then you could say, is it Mike Israetel's problem or Mike Israetel's fault that nobody actually read it and saw the problems with it? Or do you blame the advisor and the committee for approving it? So to answer the question, should Mike Israetel lose his PhD? Assuming there is no research fraud or data manipulation or anything like that, I would say absolutely not. There is no way they should retroactively remove his PhD for writing a shit dissertation. In my opinion, the worst thing he did was when he lied and pretended like it was a draft. What he should have done in that situation was just come clean and say, yeah, I wrote a shit dissertation. Let's move on. So that was pretty embarrassing, but that's all it was. Just embarrassing. So yeah, in my opinion, in order to retroactively remove a PhD, there should definitely be some research fraud involved. And I think that's what usually is the case. There needs to be research fraud involved to take away degrees. That's usually how it works. Now, I've also seen some other content creators and comments talk about why none of his family members or whatever have actually asked to see his dissertation before. But I'm like, why would they ask to see a dissertation? No one has asked me to see my dissertation. Because why would they? Like, if you don't have an advanced degree in organic chemistry, you're not going to get anything out of reading my dissertation. Another thing is, like, should you really take advice? I probably wouldn't take fitness advice, from someone purely based on their academic credentials. In fact, I think the YouTuber who gives the best fitness advice on the internet is Alan Thrall.
Okay, it's time for some curls.
And he doesn't even have any academic credentials to show for. And I think there are quite a few people with PhDs in exercise science who gives suboptimal advice on training and fitness. But yeah, I probably wouldn't take someone's training advice purely based on their academic credentials anyway. And if you ask me how good his advice on fitness is, I would say it's probably above average in terms of advice from fitness influencers and content creators. Like, most of the things he says are actually pretty reasonable in terms of his fitness advice, I think. But yeah, I think that was all I have to say on the matter. It is pretty funny, though, that this guy rage read an entire dissertation. Like, I can't even read my own. It's so boring. Like, what are you doing? Like, yeah. It's just crazy to rage read a PhD dissertation. But that's it. That's all I have to say on Dr. Mike, for this video at least.